I'm going to look at some of the problems on 8.1 on that worksheet. This one's all about circles. So some helpful information at numbers 1 through 5. Just look at your definitions and match things up. I just need you to understand what certain terms mean. On 6 through 9, we need to know that the diameter of a circle is 2 times the radius, and the radius is the diameter split in half. So I'm going to look at number 9 real fast. So on number 9 it says that find the radius, what is the radius of the circle with a diameter of 6 square roots of 5 feet. So if that's our diameter, remember the radius, it says up in our formulas, is going to be that diameter split in half. So I'm going to take the diameter, that's 6 square roots of 5, and split it in half. Now, I can't take the square root of 5 and divide it by 2 because the 5's in the square root, but I can take that 6 and divide it by 2. So what is 6 divided by 2? 3. And then the units are feet. So that is the radius of the circle. The next thing I'm going to look at is scale factors. So for 10 through 13, we need the fact that the scale factor, which I'm using is C, is going to be the new value divided by the old value. So it's the new radius divided by the old radius. So on 11, I have, it's still early guys, that the radius of circle A, so I'm using R for radius, and then I'm using a little, it's called a subscript A, so I can tell the difference. So I know they're both radius of the circles, but this one's the radius for A, this one's the radius for B. So on 11 it says the radius for A is 12 centimeters, and the radius for B is 3 centimeters. So 12 and 3. Now, I also need what my new place is and what the old place is. So this one's saying A to B. So in this case, this is A is going to be where I'm starting, so that's the old value, and B, so that's my new value. And then I'm just going to find what C is equal to. So let's get this up a little bit. Remember, C is going to be the new value, which is from B, so 3. And we're going to divide that by the old value, which is 12. Now, when I'm doing this, I don't get 4 because the larger number's in the denominator. So I'm going to reduce both of these terms by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the scale factor is 1/4. Make sure you're watching where your numbers are in regards to the numerator at the top and the denominator at the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to look at 13. So we're still using the same setup. So it's giving us what's happening when we're going from A to B. So just like down here going from A to B, that's how we set it up. So our new one was on the top and our old one's on the bottom. So where it's giving me an actual value, this is going to be the new one, and this one is the old one. but that switches places if I'm going in the other direction. So now this one's the old one, and this one's the new one. So my new C value I want the new one in the numerator. So that value corresponds with the previous old one. And I want the old value in the denominator. So I want you to, so that's our answer, but I want you to notice that it just flips it. That's called the reciprocal, when they move just from the numerator to the denominator and vice versa. Okay, then we're going to look at 15. I think I need more caffeine. So for 14 through 19, 14 and 15 don't give you pictures, they just give you information, and then 16 through 19, they give you pictures. You have to identify the information. So what's happening is we have the center of these circles and the radius of the circles. One thing I need you to really pay attention to is the direction. This is saying from B to A. So in this case, our old one are going to be those B values, and we're going to A, so those are our new values. So let's look at scale factor real fast. The scale factor is that C value, and remember we just say, well, let's take the radius of the new value. So this is my new information. So the radius is 1, and divide that by the radius for the old one. So that's our scale factor. The translation is we're going to identify how this moves. And our answer is going to be in the form of x plus or minus something, y plus or minus something, because we're talking about a point. So I want all the x values in my circle to move in this direction. And it's easiest to identify that direction from the center of the circle. So if we're starting at the old place, so for my y value, or x value and my y value, so I'm starting at 0, and I'm starting at 0 for y and x. Then I'm going to -2. So how is that going to move? How am I going to go from 0 to -2? Well, that moves back 2. Another way to think about this is you take your new value and subtract your old value, because that's going to tell you the distance that you moved. So let's use a different color. So that's going to give me -2. So that's what goes here. Then we're going to do something similar to find the y piece. Just leave this over there. So again, we're starting from 0, but this time we need to go to 4 for my y value. So how am I going to go from 0 to 4? Well, I can take 4 and subtract that 0. And that's going to give me a value of 4. So I'm going to take my y values and move right 4, or up 4. So that is the translation, which is just telling me how is it moving, how is it shifting. So that's 15. I'm also going to look at 19. For 19 though, I did print off the circle. So for 19 with the translation, it's a little bit easier because I can just count. So if I'm going from A to B, so I need to start at A and I go right 3 and I go down 3 to get to B. So my translation, I'm going to write it underneath of it, is I need to go right 3 and down 3. Now for the scale factor, I'm going to have to count I have to count the radius of each circle. So since I'm starting with A, I'm going to do that one first. That's our old circle. So I'm going to count from the center to the outside of the circle. Now counting this way is not going to work because I don't know what the distance here is because I'm kind of slanted. So I'm actually going to count either up or sideways. I'm going to try to use the lines. And I'm actually going to use from 0, since it's at 0, to here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the radius for my A value, or for the A circle, is 9. And that's what goes in the denominator, is your old one. And then the new one, that's what's going to go in the numerator. So again, I'm going to count along lines. It doesn't really matter which one you go to. I'm going to go to this one though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter that I went backwards because I'm just talking about how long is that. That's a length of 7. So my scale factor is going to be 7 divided by 9. And that's how you do some of those problems for 8.1.